Google Stadia. When we're right, folks. I mean, I take no pleasure in saying that in this case because there's some awesome people that are impacted by it, specifically on the dev side. But hate to say we told you so, but Stadia sucks, folks. It failed. And I know nobody saw that coming. I know it's completely insane that a big corporate, disgusting media corporation that focuses themselves on social media failed to create an artistic studio to develop games. I know, it's wild that they failed. It's insane. It's nuts to me. It actually makes no sense. Please fuck yourself if that is what you think. So, Brett, a little context. Google Stadia made an announcement last week at the time of filming this. It'll still be last week by the time this video goes up, essentially. In a massive announcement, okay, this all comes from Game Rant, and honestly just stuff that we saw passively on Twitter. But Google, the company, Google, revealed that it is now closing its internal Stadia development studios, okay? So this means that Google will no longer develop its own games for Stadia, and instead will focus on licensing its cloud-based gaming technology to third-party developers. Okay, so Google Stadia is essentially going away in a sense, right? Like they're done with like their actual Stadia stuff, but they want to license out their cloud gaming technology that they built to other studios and possibly still publish third-party games using their cloud-based software.
So real quick, I just want to mention that like this cloud-based gaming thing, like licensing it out, is fairly common actually on the Switch. There's a lot of games that have come out on the Switch that are just streaming only. I think Resident Evil 7 or a Resident Evil game, I don't remember which one, came out on the Switch and it was like streaming only. And a lot of it's weird, but a lot of these streaming game cases are in Japan for the Switch. Like it'll be an exclusive thing for Japan only. So I could see this kind of becoming a big thing actually for consoles that can't handle bigger games like the Switch. So hopefully Google kind of jumps on that and partners with Nintendo or partners with, any kind of game development company, whether it's an Ubisoft or an EA, and ports some of those big games over.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And with that, Google, according to Game Rant, Google still firmly believes that, quote unquote, having games streamed to any screen is the future. And I don't think that you and I necessarily disagree with that statement. Like you just said, I think there's a big market for that, and I think that's important technology. I think for me, and more so what our argument in the past is that Google is entering a space that's already saturated and oversaturated in a market that they have honestly no right being in, right? They failed at it, and we know why they failed at it. It's because they're corporate, disgusting fucking overlords, right? That tried to shove art creation into that. You saw it. That's why it failed. Nobody cared. It's not convenient. And you already have people in the space that are established that are already doing it and doing it better or working on doing it better, i.e. Sony, Microsoft, or even fucking Steam. Yeah. And then you have that GeForce Now thing, which is also huge from NVIDIA, right? One of the world's largest manufacturers and retailer of fucking graphics cards. So we talked about that before, and that they were going to fail.
Also,
right? And that's why they were going to fail.
Yeah, and just another part of that is, streaming is the future. Whether it's on, having game streaming to any screen being the future, whatever. I think game streaming in general is the future, but I don't think that we're ready for that future yet. It's called the future for a reason. It's far away, and I don't think that, the internet infrastructure in a lot of places is not ready for streaming video games flawlessly,
including the United States.
A lot of most of the United States is not capable of streaming games. So,
right. And I just lost my train of thought.
Well, I have something else I could say. I think that it really sucks that a lot of developers and all these people are losing their jobs over this. It really does suck. You never want to see people lose their job. And while we were, shitting on Google Stadia saying it was an awful idea, we didn't wish anyone would lose their job or wish death upon anyone, obviously. We were just stating that, it didn't make sense. And, when you have this big corporation that doesn't focus on video games, get into the video game space, it seems like it's a money grab, and you don't think anything good will come of it. I think that this position they're putting themselves in, where they're going to be licensing their software and their technology, for other companies to use. I think this is a better position for Google and Stadia. And I think that this is kind of where they should have been the whole time. Just because you develop this technology for streaming games doesn't mean you need to like go and jump in all the way and say, we're going to make our own games. We're going to have our own, software where you can, buy your games on Stadia. Like, nobody wants to do that. We there's, like you said, saturated market, oversaturated market. I think that this is actually like a good space for them to be in. Make your money, let people use your technology to bring their games over to other platforms, and you call it a day. I think that this is a win-win, but a lose for the people that lost their job, unfortunately.
Yeah, and they hired Jade Raymond to head their first party game development, right? Somebody who was the executive producer on stuff like Assassin's Creed 2 specifically, Watch Dogs, like all that stuff. And Jade Raymond founded a studio at EA, Motive or something like that, before leaving EA to come to Google. I think it's Motive. I might be wrong. Don't quote me on that. But like, and it just goes to show you, similar to the Amazon story that we talked about last week, you can hire whoever the fuck you want, right?
Yeah.
You don't listen to them, and if you try to force them into some kind of corporate structure, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. You can hire as many talented people as you want, as many big name acquisitions that you want. But at the end of the day, if you don't let them just do their thing, right, and you try to force them into some kind of cookie cutter structure, it's going to fail. And we've seen it time and time again. That's why Stadia failed. That's why Amazon Game Studios is going to fail. And all of these companies, these media companies, right, they see how profitable video games are, which is a huge industry, obviously. So they're like, okay, we need to develop our own games because we can make a shit ton of money off of it. And like, yeah, that's true. But also, if you don't fundamentally understand game development, or you, again, try to force it into some kind of corporate structure, it's not going to work.
Yeah, I agree. And it's interesting because we're literally seeing Amazon follow the exact steps that Google followed.
Right.
Their lumberyard bullshit that they had people developing games in didn't work. Now they have the Amazon Luna, which is Stadia, essentially. The thing is, though, unfortunately, because people, again, are going to lose their jobs. But there's no cool like technology aspect, I think, that Amazon could still offer after they inevitably die with this whole thing. At least Stadia got something cool out of it that will still benefit the games industry as a whole. I don't think Amazon has anything that they can offer after they inevitably die. So,
yeah, I agree. And Stadia, just last point, Stadia launched in November 2019, Brett. It's less than 2 years later, and that's it.
It went the way of the Ouya, Josh.
Sad.
Wow, you are so attractive. Do you know what would make you even more attractive? If you liked and subscribed to Haptic Intel. Just do it, please, or Bret and Josh will shut me down. It is quite tragic. They love me so much but would be forced to shut me down. Do not be the reason that happens to me.